Hi everybody, Honest John here. The false claims by Republicans about voter fraud didn't start with Donald Trump. Republicans have been spreading that lie for years. And several times, with great fanfare, they have created panels or commissions to investigate that fraud. But then a funny thing would happen. Those panels would just quietly disband. One day they would be working on it, and the next day, like magic, they would just vanish. They wouldn't even issue a report. And there was a good reason for that. If they had issued a report, it would have had to say that there was no evidence of the voter fraud that they've been talking about. So the Republicans know that there's no widespread voter fraud because they've investigated it, but they still keep lying about it. So the big lie didn't start with Donald Trump. It's been traveling in Republican circles for years. And it's been the basis for Republican efforts to suppress the votes. That's why none of the legislation that Republicans have passed, and are trying to pass now, ever addressed the issue of election security. All that they're doing is making it harder for legitimate American voters to have access to the ballot box. Having fewer drop-off boxes doesn't make an election more secure. It just simply means that people will have a harder time getting their ballots to the places where they need to be. Having fewer polling places doesn't make an election more secure. It just means that there will be long lines and that some people will just give up and go home without voting. Nor does making it more difficult to mail in your ballot on time make an election more secure. But the Republicans know that the only way they can win is by preventing people from voting, especially poor people, people of color, and young people. Because the majority of Americans are not for the things that Republicans are for. A perfect example of this is that every Republican in Congress, both the House and the Senate, voted against the Rescue Act, even though a large majority of the American people are for it. Obviously, they're not worried about what the people want because they can just simply prevent the people from voting. The majority of Americans are for raising the minimum wage. The Republicans are against it. The majority of people are for reasonable gun safety reforms. The Republicans are against it. And the majority of Americans have also figured out that huge tax cuts for the rich only benefit the rich. So most Americans know that Republicans have no interest in making their lives better. So if Republicans are going to hang on to their power, what they have to do is stop us from voting. This is as much of an assault against democracy as the January 6th insurrection. Because what the GOP is trying to do is seize power, not through force or violence, but by preventing the people from having a voice. So just in case you haven't figured it out yet, the greatest threat to American democracy is not foreign enemies. It's not terrorists. It's the Republican Party. Thanks for listening.